Years before the 2009 best-selling book Born to Run sparked a barefoot running debate and minimalist running boom, Doug Brandt had already been running in Ohio completely barefoot year-round for several years. Doug, can you tell us how this madness started for you?
Well, vanity. Vanity. I ran long distances in shoes, and I started losing my toenails. I like my feet. And so, vanity of vanities, I said, how am I going to stop this? Well, run barefoot, you won't lose toenails.
When we were young boys, women were seeking equal rights in a very, very different revolution. They even burned their bras. Today we find ourselves in a bit of a minimalist barefoot running revolution. Maybe we should burn some of these old things. I don't know, perhaps I could heat my house with them. Doug, is this barefoot revolution, this movement, just a fad?
Well, I don't think so. A fad is something that a whole bunch of people do and they get crazy about. Barefoot running has impacted a rather select number of people. I don't believe it's a fad, I don't believe it's going away, but it doesn't appeal to the masses. It appeals to a certain type of individual. So, I guess no.
Back in the fall of 2009, I slowly and painfully hobbled into the finish of my first marathon. I was wearing shoes like these. This might have been the pair of shoes. Now I wonder why anyone would ever buy or put these on their feet. I generally slip a little something on my feet just to protect the bottom, to protect the skin on long runs. But Doug here, he does something very rare. He runs purely barefoot, virtually anywhere, year-round. I've seen him basically float over rough gravel with no whining. Doug, how does barefoot running impact the body?
Boy, that's an excellent question. I would say that barefoot running impacts the body as minimally as is theoretically possible. When you put your sole to ground, all of the nerve receptors on your foot are communicating to your brain what the ground is like. And that forces the body to land very softly. So the impact is minimal, even though people believe that you're going to destroy your knees, destroy your body. The impact is probably 25 to 40% of what a habitually shod runner will experience.
Doug, can you tell us about some funny or crazy responses you've gotten from people while you're out barefoot in public?
Boy, I'll tell you, there's been some really crazy ones. My favorite, however, was when I was serenaded by some Marine recruits in California. Who's that man running alone? Who's that man running alone? He's running like Fred Flintstone. He's running like Fred Flintstone. Sound off, 1, 2, sound off, 3, 4, bring it on down now. It was great.
Awesome.
And what was really great is I passed them.
Do your feet ever give out when you're running barefoot?
It's exceptionally rare. The only time that my feet have given out to the point where I was being limited by my feet in running is when I ran through some sealer. It was asphalt sealer, and essentially it irritated my feet.
Okay.
That's the only time.
Okay.
Action.
So Doug, do podiatrists kind of understand you? Do they get what you're doing?
The typical podiatrist does not understand barefoot running, doesn't subscribe to it, but there are podiatrists out there who have a more educated viewpoint. Dr. Nicholas Campitelli, who's on Facebook, is an excellent podiatrist who supports minimal and barefoot running philosophy.
Okay. What about unnatural concrete surfaces and sharp objects such as broken glass?
Well, there's two aspects there. One is the so-called unnatural surface. Concrete is so hard, it's not meant to run on. Why are you running barefoot on it? Concrete is one of the best surfaces for a barefoot runner to run on. It provides a lot of spring back to the foot. You can feel the energy return. You can see things on it, so it's a very safe place to run. In terms of glass, it's highly overrated. God gave me eyes, I run around glass. On occasion, I do get a foot puncture. Well, no, not anymore, but when I started, I did. And you just have to deal with that. That's one of the hazards, but typically, I step around it. As my 3-year-old grandson said, "Grandpa, don't step on the acorns." I don't.
All right. What about extra hot or extra cold weather?
Again, even if you're running shoes, it seems to me that God gave you a brain. If it's 110 out, run in the morning, run in the night. If it's 50 below, run on your treadmill. Now, what I do when it's extra hot out and I have to run and it's midday, I run on the lines of the pavement, or I run on the grass if it gets really, really hot. But really, really hot is above 100 degrees Fahrenheit midday. I would say Phoenix is really, really hot. I've never blistered my feet from running on too hot surfaces. When it's really, really cold, I run in the middle of the day, or I find a church parking lot that's been plowed, and I run it during the high point of the sun, and the sun warms up the asphalt and makes it a better place to be.
Perfect. How about trail running?
Trail running is something that I did not really seriously start doing until the last several years. You can run on trails, gravel's not a problem. When you get embedded rocks in mud that are spaced about 2 inches apart and are pointy, about 2 inches high, that becomes very challenging. But by and large, I can run any trail. I just might not be running it at a 7-minute mile.
Excellent. Do you or others actually race barefoot?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who do run barefoot. For myself, I run faster barefoot than I run in shoes. I'll do 5Ks, 5-milers, half marathons. Some people do marathons. I've never done an actually paid marathon. I've run marathon distances, but I try to stay away from that just because it's just so long. So yeah, racing is fun.
Okay. What about cuts, abrasions? You've already said you don't get blisters, but
He likes my hands. Okay, so I won't be touching my face. Sorry. Should I just go on?
yeah.
Okay, so the number one issue that new barefoot runners going to experience are abrasions. Just because the foot is not tough. I don't experience abrasions very much anymore. Abrasions can be treated with Epsom salts by soaking your feet or by using new skin. Abrasions are your friend because they show you that you're not running with the best form, and they help you change your form. Blisters, I haven't had blisters for years. You'll get blisters if your form isn't good the first 3 to 6 months. To treat a blister, if you want to keep running on a blister that makes contact, you have to drain it. And there is a procedure to do that. It's on my website. I won't get into that right now. In terms of cuts, I've never had a cut. To have a cut, you have to have movement against a sharp object. And when the foot touches down in a barefoot runner, there's no movement relative to the ground. So I've never experienced cuts.
Barefoot runners also suffer the typical running injuries to the knees, hips, Achilles, and the dreaded plantar fasciitis.
Well, to a first approximation, no, they don't. You can get injured running barefoot, but typically your knee is not what gets injured. And typically your hips are not what gets injured. You may get tired hips because you're not used to engaging them like you normally would in barefoot running. But typical running injuries simply don't happen. As a matter of fact, I've had no typical running injury for the last 7 years, and I've had very few days that I've been unable to run because of a running injury. As a matter of fact, I haven't had any.
That's amazing. Most runners get multiple injuries every year. Do your feet get sore?
When I first started running barefoot, in the first couple of years, yes, the feet do get sore. That's the coping mechanism that tells you stop running. And it's that what enables your foot to get stronger because you're not running all the time. You're stopping running because they're a little sore. But after year 3 or 4, I don't, my feet really don't get sore. I might experience a little soreness after 20 miles.
Wow, okay. Shoe companies and salespeople at shoe stores are selling cushion and support. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's just an example of the power of society to essentially dictate what is appropriate and what is not. Conventional wisdom regarding the capabilities of the foot is wrong. The foot is extraordinarily capable and can handle virtually any surface without any aid because it immediately communicates to the body, stop doing this, it's too much for me. So I think people are doing it, they think they're providing value, but really it's unnecessary.
Okay, what is the main difference between a shod runner and a barefoot runner?
The shod runner wears shoes and the barefoot runner doesn't. That's really the only difference.
Okay. Can you offer folks some tips for transitioning towards this natural running?
This is a hard one. Open your ears and listen to what experienced barefoot runners are telling you. Don't transition by putting a minimal shoe on and then running. What will happen is you will get injured. You will stress your foot beyond its capabilities because the minimal shoe, while providing protection to the sole, does not provide protection to the arch and all the musculature and ligaments within the foot. The foot that has been encased in a cast called a shoe for decades is not strong enough to handle barefoot form running. Therefore, in a minimal shoe, because the sole is protected, you don't stop, you keep running, and sometimes it's months later where the foot totally gives out with top of foot pain, and then you're in a world of hurt. So I would say, run barefoot.
I think that's good advice. I know I switched to the minimalist shoes and ended up with a stress fracture. Seriously, do you ever run in shoes?
Boy, that's a trick question. It really is. There are times because of societal norms that I have my Vibrams on and I have to run to the car because it's raining. So technically, yes, there are times that I run in my Vibrams.
You wear these?
The classics.
All right.
Not those. I have the classics. They were the first thing that came out, and they came out a few months after I started running barefoot. So yeah, I do run in shoes, but it's because I've been forced to put on a shoe and I run to the car. When I'm out running for pleasure and fun, the only time I ever run in shoes is in my dreams. And it's a nightmare.
That's a great answer. What would you say is the single best benefit of pure barefoot running?
The hills are alive with the sound of music. Joy. I mean, it's delightful. It's awe-inspiring to be out there with nothing between you and the ground but the feet that God gave you, and not experience pain. For someone who wasn't even a competitive runner, when I wore shoes and ran, I would go to bed at night and have to position my legs because my knees hurt so bad. I don't experience pain. All I experience is pleasure. I get a foot massage every time I run. It is just so healthy to the body.
Awesome. Barefoot running has taught me to listen to my body better. I feel like a 7-year-old kid again when I'm out running in the grass, completely barefoot. Doug, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming out.
Yeah.
You can find Doug Brandt on Facebook at Dayton Barefoot Runners.